Hello and happy Monday. Welcome into the KSL Sports Front Page. It's powered by KSLSports.com. I am your host. I'm also the Utes Insider, Trevor Allen, host of the Crimson Corner podcast. Joining me today is Jeremy Mauss. He is the producer of KSL's Unrivaled. You guys can hear that show weekdays from 7 to 9 on KSL News Radio, and also check out the podcast, KSL's Unrivaled, at KSLSports.com. Jeremy, how's your Monday going so far?
Man, we're busy, man. We got a short week. NFL weekend was awesome. There's a bunch going on, and we only got a short time to get to it this week before things will probably change in the next 45 minutes, right?
Yeah, and it all kind of starts with, and I know people are going to be happy about going into this dark mode city jersey for the Utah Jazz that came out, and also the court to go with it. But there's a whole fiasco going on down in Provo that you and I are going to talk about here in a minute with BYU and Washington, and this can kind of have some sort of a impact for the Utes, and also talking about the Utes finally opening up the season. They're the last team out of the FBS that had a schedule that actually played a football game in 2020. We'll talk about that, and also the Aggies are getting ready for a Turkey Day football game against New Mexico. But we'll start, Jeremy, with the dark mode City Edition jerseys that were unveiled by the Utah Jazz today. As you guys can see, our Jazz insider Ben Anderson wrote this. Early thoughts as soon as you saw it. I mean, I know that
any alternate jersey I'm there for. Any other jersey I'll do it.
Really?
Give it to me. I will take almost any alternate jersey. But these look amazing. The dark to light is kind of the play on the what was it 2 years ago, the Red Rock jersey. It's kind of a play off of that, but I love these. Give me any alternate jersey just because it's so fun. Why not? If it's, I guess maybe not the yellow ones last year because they won 2 games and
I hated those. I don't. And even though the Jazz are not good while wearing those uniforms, they don't look good either. And it's not the Jazz's colors.
There's
I just don't understand
it. I get it. Like I don't want them to be like I think they played too many games in those. I think it was 8 to 10 games before they got rid of them. But if it's like the city jerseys, say once a month, that's 6, 7 games. That's fine. Or the alternate Sunday jerseys teams wear, like if it's a flip on your colors, it's fine. Like if they do this occasionally, I don't want it to be like a once a week thing where it's a 30-year season, like 20 games. But if it's 10 games max, I'm fine with it. Just we know why they do it. They want to sell some more jerseys. They look pretty cool. I like the dark to light look, but almost any alternate jersey I'll be fine with. Even the bright yellow, it's not their colors, but I guess it's like, what are they trying to do? The color rush NFL scheme? What they're going on?
I hope not, because certain teams with doing those, I don't like the whole color rush, especially the Broncos. And I'm actually a Broncos fan. I hate when they do like the all orange and stuff. Like, stop it! You guys are not hunting for deer. Knock it off. For this, I mean, I like what they did, Jeremy. They kind of did that, spin off of what the last 2 years have been like with that City Edition jersey. I really like those jerseys, and I was kind of sad to see them go away. I'm glad that they kind of brought them back in a certain way to where it just turns it into dark mode a little bit, because in college football they have the dark mode. Like I know BYU is going to be doing with their game coming up in a couple of weeks, and the Utes just did their dark mode, if you will, on Saturday against the USC Trojans. So I think that this is just kind of getting involved with that.
Yeah, just like I said, I'm here for all the alternate jerseys. I'll give you at least one shot with them.
Yeah. And then to go with them, and then, it was actually just announced, about an hour, a little bit ago. The dark
court,
mode,
man. Bring it.
Court.
Come on.
It, and, of what they did, they actually, have the state logo on it. I'm trying to see if I could find it without having to press play.
And they can find it there, but it's just a change of the they got the state logo. It's a different plan. Like when they do the court, I like that too, because it's even more rare they do with the court thing, but it's boring. You got 40 home games, whatever they're doing this year, 36 or whatever's at home, but mix it up. Like if it's a court changes occasionally, again, I'm here for all the weird stuff and alternate stuff. Just do it just enough to want me to come back for more. That's what their plan is. It's to leave you wanting more for these jerseys, the courts. And if people don't like it, I get it, but it's only a couple games. It's like, just get over it. It's fun. It's fine. It's unique. Have some fun with your proteins, right? You don't want to be bland, boring, and super corporate.
And something else that is actually missing, Jeremy, is the arch right here. Are you okay with that or no?
It's different. Hey, why repeat yourself? Go different. This is a more clean look, because when you have those weird stuff, like there's some courts in specifically college, like they'll have some giant logo, some kind of like a translucent where it kind of just goes off of the brown hardwood where it's a darker brown where it's kind of hard to see on TV or something. It's fine. It's again they're trying something a little bit different, and because it's not the arches, it's not what this is about. It's a city thing. Does of course Utah Jazz the whole state, not like Denver, Houston, or the Knicks, where it's actually a city team. It's a statewide thing. So I'm fine with it. It's if it was there, great. If it's not, it's just different.
Yeah. And then now switching gears a little bit, we're going to go to the Utes. Coming off of a 33-17 loss to the USC Trojans on Saturday. It was their first game, Jeremy, in 326 days. It was definitely a different type of game. It actually presented a lot of different challenges for Utah too, because Cam Rising going in was the starting quarterback, and that was kind of the worst kept secret going into that game. And then obviously after the fourth drive when Rising got sacked, he also fumbled the ball. As he was reaching for the ball, he hurt his shoulder, and now we don't know how long he's going to be out. And then Jake Bentley comes in. Utah's offense just really struggled for most of the night, but that wasn't what really surprised me. I thought that Utah's defense played pretty well considering how many new guys, especially for that whole new secondary going up against an air raid offense. I thought that Utah's defense played really well.
Yeah, they started a bunch of new guys, young guys, like especially Clark Phillips is one of the new guys who's on, like you mentioned, your piece, the top there. He was attracted or guarding the top two USC receivers, and I think they got about, I don't think he guarded them every entire game, but they got about 100 total yards between the two. So it's not like they were blowing him out or getting these deep plays against him. Nephi Sewell had the interception, the scoop and score. They were getting after the quarterback for Slovis there, but it's hard when your offense gives the ball up 5 times to give the defense a chance to go out there and make enough plays. Like they were making plays. I forget, what's the 2 deep have? Like 9 freshmen or redshirt freshmen? They have so many young guys on that defensive side. And while it wasn't like a traditional Utah's going to stuff them with what Whittingham or Morgan Scully want to do, but they made big plays. They got to the quarterback. They stopped a lot of things. They forced turnovers. And that was the one bright spot of this team. Like the offense, like it seemed like Jake Bentley's the guy the rest of the way. Like they tried to target Keith. He had 10 targets, 5 catches. The running game outside of a couple plays wasn't great. So I do like how the defense played. And again, it's their first game, we can mention, last team to play. They were prepping for 2 weeks, finally get a game in, and they played probably the top 1 or 2 teams within the conference. And through just over a half, they're right there with them.
Yeah, and something that was a little bit different than of what the Utes normally run. They normally run that nickel package where they actually have a nickel back, 2 corners, and 2 safeties. What they did for this game, they actually put Sewell, who's normally a linebacker, actually just made the move from safety to linebacker, moved him back to safety and had 3 safeties and 2 corners and took out the nickel back. And so you had Broughton and Phillips at the corners, and then you had Nate Ritchie, the freshman, Vontae Davis, and Sewell, and it seemed to work out pretty well. And on top of that, they also did a lot of zone coverage rather than your normal man-to-man. And so that was what I think kind of threw the Trojans off. But on top of that, Jeremy, I was shocked, and I want to ask your thoughts. I was surprised that USC did not take more shots down the field, especially with how many new guys are in that secondary.
Yeah, that's what could have last year, but it's also different when you have Michael Pittman Jr. just going down the field, just chucking it and doing. We see what he does with the Colts now and last year. But also, I think part of it, like you said, if Utah, what we've known Whittingham do forever is basically, I'm not changing my defense. I'm playing man coverage no matter what. And so that was a unique thing for USC, and they could have made some halftime adjustments or whenever the first couple possessions. But you're right, like you have Clark Phillips, true freshman out there, a couple other young guys who barely started, experience very limited. It's not like they're going up against these great receivers in practice for Utah when they're trying to replicate what USC or other teams have in the league. Why not try it a bit more? Because he was accurate. Like Slovis was 24-35. He wasn't throwing the ball down the field. They had a couple long throws. They had that one to Tyler Vaughn that was 42-yarder, but they haven't had too many downfield. But you would think you have new freshman guys, like not saying that Clark Phillips and other young guys aren't good, but they're inexperienced. So you can do like a pump and go, like a fake, like do do some sort of shimmy fake or something to get them off and just chuck it downfield. You would have thought for what they have, might as well do it, but maybe they just also didn't really need it either. It's like they're really in control of the game for the most part. Like they only scored like 9 points in the second half, and they didn't even need the 9 points. Utah was shut out. And so it's something where they didn't have to do it, but I am shocked they didn't at least try to touch more because of, like I said, the inexperience they have back there.
And so in this piece that I have right here, I also talked about it on my podcast that I host, the Crimson Corner podcast. I listed 5 guys who stood out in that game. And I know people are going to say, well, what about Devin Lloyd? Devin Lloyd is a guy who is going to be a standout every single week, so he doesn't need to be mentioned in this article. And so,
come on, it's game one. What are you doing? Game one. Give him some guys who,
yeah. Hey, we all know of what Devin Lloyd's going to do. He ended up leading the team in tackles. If it wasn't for him, Utah probably would have given up a lot more points, but Devin Lloyd was just doing Devin Lloyd things. But I wanted to kind of go outside of the box and out of the norm. And so I actually came up with a couple of guys. Ty Jordan was a guy, and this is another, and I guess it kind of goes to, the fact of 2020, Utah not using one lead back where they have 4 different running backs what they're using, but Ty Jordan, he surprised a lot of people and he played really well in that game against the Trojans. And then obviously Sewell had a really good outing. Clark Phillips, I thought, for a guy who was playing in his first college game and going up against NFL caliber wideouts, I thought he played as good as he could probably play. And then Solomon Enos, he's supposed to have a big year this year, and he showed, glimpses of that. And then one that was kind of a dark horse, BYU transfer Devin Kafusi. He played really well, and I actually think that a lot of Ute fans were thinking he was just going to be an end of the bench guy, but he came in and actually had a lot of playing time and was actually productive in that pass rush for Utah.
Yeah, guys, hands up, couple TFLs, the sack of the game. Yeah, he's in there being a disruptor. Like, adding those guys in there, like, defense is going to be fine. Who they have, like, Sewell is probably the player of the game for his interception score. And overall, like, for a start that we knew Utah would be down, we're disappointed the Utes lost because we want them to win. The quarterback thing, let me go back there really quick. Like, despite Bentley, he was okay. Like, look how many guys he threw the ball to. He threw to about 10 guys, I think it was. It looks like Keithy had the 4 catches, and you had like Brian Thompson, all these other guys, Simona Enos getting catches. So they throw the ball to everybody, which is a good thing going forward, where you're not going to focus on one guy. And so if we're looking for improvement, clearly throw the ball better. Defense was put in a bad spot, so I'm not going to blame them for giving up all those points when they're getting short fields off the turnovers. But like when they play, whoever they play next, Arizona State, Washington, who knows? We'll get to that. But defense is fine. They played like the best team, and they were fairly competitive for the most game. It's like turnovers and then give Bentley all the snaps because Whittingham basically said it seems like, or insinuating he's going to be the starter going forward. And they throw to 8 different guys, which Utah doesn't throw a ton. Who cares if they use 2 to 4 running backs? This is what they have to do for this year. And like what our buddy Scott Mitchell has said, who does stuff on the Arrive, is like, just make it a glorified spring season on steroids. Get all the guys talent, or the talented guys, let them play as much as they can. If Utah goes to a bowl game, cool. If they don't, not a big deal. They probably will regardless because they're better than Colorado and I think Colorado, UCLA, but they'll be in the mix for that. And so, but just play your guys and figure out what works and doesn't for next year.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of the questions that are going to be coming in, and by the way, for those of you tuning in, you guys can put in your questions here, your comments of what you guys thought over the weekend with everything in sports. We haven't had a chance to talk to Kyle Whittingham yet. Normally he holds his press conferences on Monday, and it doesn't mean anything. I think a lot of it is that they don't know what's going on for this week. So Kyle could very well meet with the media tomorrow or on Wednesday, but they're trying to wait and see what's going on, because I think by Thursday we're going to get an answer on whether or not the Sun Devils will be ready to go, because they already pushed that game. Just in case you guys have missed this, Utah is going to be playing on Sunday. We just don't know the kickoff time and broadcast info yet. But playing on Sunday, but we also don't have an update on Cam Rising, and there are some things swirling around on Twitter that it's a pretty bad injury for Cam Rising, but we just don't know. But really, Jeremy, at this point, I think it's a good thing that Utah is deep at quarterback, because Bentley showed signs of being really, really good. I think a lot of it too was just the O-line just really struggled for some reason, and which is really shocking to me, because going into the season, them and the wideouts were kind of Utah's strongest positions.
Yeah, at least experience type. Like, they only got 3 sacks, but they're in the backfield all day. Like, we know Utah's receivers, they're not okay, I'm being honest, they're not great. They haven't had a great receiver group in a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
everybody's putting all their faith in Britton Covey. It's like, slow down, relax.
Who
He
also
had
didn't
the
play
1
on
year, like,
Saturday.
yeah, like I remember was our buddy Sam Farnsworth like, all right, I'm on Covey watch here. He's on the sideline. He's running up and down. He's on the bike. Like, it's experience. Like, Keithy's the best guy out there catching the ball, but like the line was, you're right, should have been, those are the most two experienced group. So you expect a step forward. It's good all those guys caught the passes, but think of it years past at quarterback, like going back to I don't remember who the guy was a decade ago with Norm Chow, who led them to victory over random teams.
Jordan Wynn or John Hayes?
No, not Jordan. John Hayes, yeah, the guy from Nebraska, Omaha or something, whatever it was. It's not like that, where their backup quarterback is a guy who's never played. Bentley hasn't. Okay, Cam Rising's never really played because he came from Texas. Bentley's played at South Carolina, played fairly well. So the depth is a luxury, and it'll help. And even behind him, if people like Drew Lisk, that's something there as well. But like, just play your guys, and like, honestly, I want Utes to win because they're the team I went to school for. We love the Utes here. Just don't get embarrassed. That's such a low bar to put out there, but just be competitive and get a couple wins. We know you'll be good because this year, again, if you want everybody's back, so it doesn't really matter all that much.
Exactly. All right, now let's switch gears to something that is going on down in Provo. It was kind of a busy, night, and frankly, I'm just going to say this, Jeremy, as someone who covers the Utes, but I also follow the other sports within the state, within the Pac-12. I thought it was the most entertaining night last night on Twitter, and that really says something because Twitter is a very poisonous and toxic place. But it was wildly entertaining last night.
Embrace Twitter. It's the best.
Yes. So the chaos was just absolutely amazing.
Here's the thing about we'll actually say exactly what it is. So here's the deal. BYU wants more games. Tom Homo said he wants more games. Kalani Sitake says they want more games. On the sideline of the North Alabama thrashing, Zach Wilson has basically stole it from Pat Hill because everybody takes it from Pat Hill. Anytime, any place, anywhere. Mm-hmm. Well, asterisk, except if it's this team, or this team. Kind of half kidding. So there's two ways to look at this. When you look at the first reports that came out, because you had this up late last night, it was basically saying BYU and Washington had talks, I believe as early as, was it Friday? Kyle Bonagari, right there from ESPN. I'm trying to zoom in here, but he basically said the day before, I think it's Saturday or Friday, BYU's looking at Washington, but BYU declined. That's all we had. Like, well, that's interesting. Why is that the case? Another report comes out, same thing. And so people are like, well, BYU said, even their BYU football Twitter account says, hey, and they quote tweeted with a picture of Zach Wilson headband saying, we're going to play whomever, all that type of stuff. Mm-hmm. It's a bad look because you say you want to play whoever, but then you don't. But we also don't know all the details, Trevor. It's not like we're just out there spouting stuff off. Not until Pete Thamel of Yahoo says, well, here's why. Because, BYU wants 100% guarantee for the game, which I do not blame BYU one bit. But that tweet came out, an hour or two? I don't remember, maybe an hour later.
So that actually came out at 6:46 on Sunday, which was exactly 40 minutes after Feldman's tweet. And the Bonagurus came out at 4:49. So that one was about an hour and a half. So
Twitter
about
time, that's
2
like
hours.
4 days. And unless you pin it or you find a fleet somehow, if you're using those to check out those tweets I sent out, but
don't bring up fleets, man.
Embrace the fleet. Come on, no,
I'm not embracing fleets.
That's fine. But the point is, the toothpaste is already out of the bottle. You can't put it back in when two reports say BYU declines with no context. But then when they say they want 100% commitment, which I get, would you want to practice or train for something that gets the rug pulled out from you a day before, 2 days before? No. And so I get BYU's point saying, well, we're hesitant because the Pac-12 would rather have Washington play, as you mentioned earlier, Trevor. Arizona State, Utah is questionable, in my opinion, because Sunday it's already moved.
Very
so they could
questionable.
Say Friday morning, like the Utah game before, a couple weeks ago, got UCLA and Cal switched to Southern California. There was a ball. That could come up Friday, and Utah goes out to Seattle for a game. That is clearly on the table. And BYU, during Thanksgiving week, where they could have most of the week off, go home to their family, celebrate how they want to celebrate, or practice, and then, Friday, sorry, guys, we're not getting on a plane because either your testing protocol wasn't equivalent to the Pac-12, which I think BYU's is. So I get BYU say no to it, but I'll let you say. You mentioned before, BYU could be the good guy if they were to follow through and say, yes, we'll play, right? There's a chance they could look really good if they commit to this game despite being not fully committed.
Yeah, and, the way I look at this, Jeremy, and I know a lot of Cougar fans are not going to be happy with me, which is fine because I'm not the BYU guy here. But of what I will say, this isn't a bad thing to be the backup plan for Washington, because guess what? You also have every right to go to other programs, even though you have a potential game with Washington. Say that you're like, okay, BYU's like, yeah, Washington, we'll play you guys. But if you're not going to lock in any kind of commitment, because as you look right here, this is why Washington cannot commit.
Okay? Pac-12 wants their own games.
Because if Utah is left without a game and Washington's still left without a game, the Pac-12 wants the Pac-12 to play each other. And so of what they're going to do is any non-conference game is scheduled. Sorry, you're gone. That is why it's so hard to schedule a non-conference game. But this is the way I look at it. Washington and BYU can work out something. Okay, great. We are going to play each other. If we don't have other games scheduled for this week, I know it sounds crazy, but guess what? It's 2020. Everything's crazy. So
it's on the table. Everything's on the table.
I would just say, look, BYU says, all right, Washington, we do want to play you guys. But if we go find a different team to play for this game, then we're going to ditch you guys. And that's it. You wash your hands of it. Nothing's left behind. And I know that. Yeah. And I know it is more complex than that. But even if you don't get a game with someone else, and Washington's still online, and then Friday you find out, oh, Sun Devils aren't going. It's Utah, Washington. Sorry, BYU. You didn't have a game technically scheduled for this week anyway. So what's the difference? You just got some practice time in, which could very well help you as you're getting ready. And, and Tom Homo can still try and focus on a game to get for next week. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. They can BYU could look really good at this. Cause like you said, they could be like, okay, well, both teams could do this. Like, here's a contingency plan. If everything else falls flat, we will play you. That's fair. But if BYU were to come out and say, yeah, we'll play Washington, and then it comes out Washington last minute plays Utah, it's like, well, that puts egg on Washington's face and makes them look like the bad guy here.
Yep. Very
bad, because like, oh, we wanted to play you, but oh, what is this? Your Pac-12 overlords want us to come to play a conference game. Like, BYU is willing to go on the road, willing to put the game on the other TV networks, partners, FS1, Fox, or ESPN, whatever it may be. And then Washington says, well, we're not going to play it because Larry Scott says so. It's like, that makes BYU look really good. So extra practice is great. They have 2 weeks off before San Diego State. So 12-5, they could do Cincinnati if they really wanted to. But here's another thing too. It's like the playoff rankings come out Tuesday. I'm going to go on a limb here and be shocked if BYU's in the top 10 of those rankings. I would be very shocked, because we've seen years past, like when UCF is undefeated, they're stuck like at 12 or 14th in the first initial rankings. And so BYU's strength schedule is not great. And adding Washington, if we're being honest, Trevor, what's it really going to do to move the needle for the playoff? Literally nothing, because they have a couple options. They play Washington or anybody. Let's just say any random Pac-12 team, but stick with Washington. They beat them. Great. They move up the rankings maybe because they have a pretty good win. Win's not going to get them in the playoff. A win will probably solidify their New Year's Six, depending on what happens for San Diego State, which they should win as well. But there's more bad things and good things can happen from this. A win does nothing really for you too much. A loss eliminates you from everything. Do they want to go to the Independence Bowl? Do they want to go to the random bowl game here? Like, yeah, the Birmingham Bowl. Do you want to go to the Pinstripe Bowl in New York City? It's like a Yankee Stadium. It's like, I can see you want to play games, but you could also put the argument, play it safe. San Diego State didn't look great versus Nevada. They lost to them by about 5 points over the weekend. Their starting quarterback, whose new guy got hurt. Their starting running back is injured. So there's a lot of stuff going on where they should probably beat San Diego State by 2 to 3 touchdowns. And so finish 10-0, go to the Fiesta Bowl, and probably play the Pac-12 champion. I get you want to play, and I would like to see them be challenged as well, because it's unfortunate for how good this team is. They're not playing Utah. They're not playing Arizona. They're not playing whoever else is on their schedule, all the P5, Michigan State, Missouri is on the preseason schedule, Minnesota. Like, those teams aren't world beaters as what we've seen, but at least would have been, hey, they went 5-0 versus all these P5 teams. They could be sitting here. Like, it's unfortunate the schedule played out, but play whoever you want. If Washington's being a jerk, which it seems more likely than not once you actually dive into the tweets and reports out there, BYU's doing what they want to do, which is great, to play whoever they want to play. But they can't just be somebody's backup plan every week. If, like I said, if there's a backup plan to be in place, BYU should be looking out for anybody else. Marshall, Liberty, I think, has an open week. Like, all these teams that are available, they don't need to play a game, but if they can get a decent opponent, go for it. Like, there's rumors like maybe an SEC team down the road, but just it's just the way the reporting came out. It makes BYU look bad, and it shouldn't look bad because they have the right to stand on and say, hey, we're not going to just be here hoping and praying and waiting. We can be grateful just to play a mediocre to okay Pac-12 team. They don't need to succumb to that to be somebody's second or third or fourth choice.
Okay, so two things here, and then we're going to move on. One, don't sport the headband then if that's not the case. All right,
it's a bold move, man. It's bold.
I know that Zach Wilson, Kalani Sitake are not Tom Homo. Tom Homo ultimately has that decision of who BYU plays. But if you're going to put that out there on social media, you're going to get clobbered just like BYU has been for the last day. Now,
rightfully so.
BYU is in a different position than what Utah was in last year. Utah was on the brink of getting into a college football playoff berth. All they had to do was beat Oregon. They didn't do that. Then what happened? They dropped all the way to the Alamo Bowl. BYU is in a spot right now where they can control their own destiny. Utah can't because they are, and frankly, it's a good thing for Utah because you always want to be putting yourself in that position to win championships. And Utah was in that spot for the second straight year. BYU doesn't get a luxury of a conference championship, so why not shoot for the next best thing, and that is a New Year's Six Bowl. Playing Washington doesn't do anything for you. But if you play Oregon, that helps because Oregon is right now a top 10 team. We'll see what happens when the college football playoff ranking comes out.
I'd argue even those games, Cincinnati, Texas A&M, Oregon, it's not going to get them to playoff either. It's just one of 10, and I still don't think that's enough, unfortunately.
The only way you would get into the playoff, frankly, is if you go beat Clemson, Ohio State, Alabama. You go beat one of them,
3 straight weeks in a row.
But you don't, then, to me, BYU was never a college football playoff team anyway. I'm going to put that out there right now. Shoot for the stars and try and get into that top 12 to get that New Year's Six Bowl game, but don't try and force yourself to get into the playoff because it's not happening. And even in a normal year, I mean, even Oregon didn't get into the playoff, and they beat Utah, and both teams had one loss. So Oregon had to go to the Rose Bowl last year,
and playing Washington and Stanford and Cal and all these other teams that are better. It's a pipe dream. Like, unfortunately, it's just the world they live in. Like, same with Utah State or any G5 team that had Coastal Carolina's undefeated. They have no shot. Cincinnati, I'd still put them as having basically no shot unless a million things go their way and these teams start having upsets against them.
All right, Jeremy, final thing. And since you are the Mountain West guy, as your side gig covering the Mountain West, Utah State didn't play last week. They have a game on Thursday.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, at least right now. At least right now. I mean, obviously, it is a mess up in Logan, and they're trying to turn some things around. Gary Anderson getting fired. Jason Shelley is booted off the team. Devin Tompkins is going into the portal. What do you make of the Aggies? Is this their best chance to get a win in 2020?
Did they play UNLV? Well, it doesn't matter because I don't think.
No,
I think they beat. No, I mean as well, also UNLV. But New Mexico, New Mexico's this is their best chance. I think they're favored by about 5 to 6 points, I believe, somehow in this game. But the only thing Utah State honestly is going for them is Jalen Warren. He is, I've been saying forever, he's a really good stud on their team. Yep. Feed him the ball. And they'll have to with their starting, whether it be Cooper Lagar or Andrew Peasley. And the reason I kind of joke good they didn't play because they'd have Cooper having to play last week versus a Wyoming team on the road, a short week, and a really good defense because Craig Bull has a good defense. Yeah, and Laramie out there.
We all know about the Laramie stories.
Oh, yeah. Everybody. Pretty crazy. But with this New Mexico team, they got shut out versus Air Force last week, I think 28-0. Their defense makes some good plays. They can force some turnovers, but they don't have their starting quarterback, at least at the moment. Tavaki Toyota had the concussion protocol. Not that he's some amazing quarterback, but he's been their starter this year and their main guy last year. And so they're lacking playmakers. So this could be a game where it's a few points. Mexico tries to throw the ball, but they're 200 a game, which is obviously infinitely better than Utah State, what they've been doing. I think what Utah State, their best chance to win is their defense will be fine because the Libos aren't amazing what they can do defensively. They did hold Air Force sort of down, but then again, they run the triple option, so it's hard to tell. My point being, give it to Jalen Warren as many times as possible and then relieve the pressure of whoever starts at quarterback. I think it should be Peasley because he's played a little bit, and that's the best way to go. And what you want to accomplish this year, because fortunately, I don't think Frank Maile is going to be back next year because this is his second go-around as interim coach. they're going to blow this whole thing up. They've lost so many players to the transfer portal, who you mentioned, and multiple guys before the season started. Like, maybe get to save on Scarver a little bit more because he's the return guy, but he's not even doing much catching the ball either. But this is their best chance. If they don't win this game, they're going to go winless, unfortunately. And like I said, Utah, make this a glorified spring extravaganza. Play your young guys with a quarterback. It's either player, doesn't matter. Keep Warren in there despite him being a senior. Let him play and get his yards because he's shown when they played, was it Nevada a couple weeks, or whatever, a couple weeks ago, he had some huge big plays down
Fresno
the field.
State.
Like, no, Fresno State, just huge plays down the field. He had the fortunate fumble, got knocked out of it, but he had 130 yards, I believe, in that game. He's scoring touchdowns, getting the ball. And they can go toe-to-toe. It's kind of sad to say they're going to go toe-to-toe with Lobos, who have lost 13 straight, haven't won since Bob Davie was their head coach last September.
Goodness.
But just feed Warren, and the offense isn't explosive enough for the Lobos side, whether it's Tuiaki or anybody else under center. They'll be fine. Just what you notice when Utah State plays, they start off pretty well. Like when they played Nevada, they're winning 9-0. They kind of need to keep that intensity the whole game in. It's also, what's the play for? You have a winning game. You missed last week. And if we're being honest, this game, theoretically, it's in question as well because any team or most teams that have had a COVID issue have missed 2 back-to-back games. Mm-hmm. And Utah State was the issue why they didn't travel to Wyoming. So if we're sitting here Monday afternoon, this game's on Thanksgiving Day. So there's still a day or two for something to change. But I would be I think this game might be 60-40 in favor of playing just because of what the trend has been across the country. But again, give it to Warren and go from there, and then your defense will be fine against Lobo attack that's not overly explosive.
Give him the rock. All right, Jeremy, what do you guys have coming up tonight on KSL's Unrivaled on KSL News Radio?
Dude, we didn't even talk about Taysom Hill, which we'll get to that later tonight. There's so much stuff.
Then,
so
better reason for them to tune into your guys' show.
Yeah, we'll talk Taysom Hill. We're going to talk Jazz free agency with Ben Anderson tonight as well at 8:05. Talk about the Utes game with Scott Mitchell, who was able to see, as yourself, with the blackout from ESPN cameras, able to see those crucial minutes late in the game when that went away. But that's what we're getting to. We're going to talk this BYU adding a game and just basically what you expect us to talk about on a Monday, free agency from the Jazz, because I love Jordan Clarkson, Derek Favors coming in town. It'll be amazing. But, yeah, Taysom Hill, some NFL, Utes, Cougs, all the good stuff, and just be ready from 7 to 9 p.m. on KSL News Radio.
And if you guys want all of your coverage on Taysom as you're getting ready to listen to KSL's Unrivaled, you guys can go to the Locals in the NFL tab at kslsports.com. Kyle Ireland covered that thing wall to wall. And it's actually a good thing he's off because he has been typing like a madman for the last 2 days. Kyle has done a tremendous job. So, Jeremy, it's always good to catch up with you, and it's actually good to see you virtually.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon.
All right. See you around, guys.
And that'll do it for this edition of the KSL Sports Front Page. Next one will be coming up on Wednesday at 4 o'clock right here, and it's powered by KSLSports.com.